Welcome back to G.A.M.E.R. I'm your host, G.A.M.E.R here, and today, welcome to a brand new video. Today, we're going to be ranking every genre in video games, at least the ones that I've chosen to rank. Now, I'll go ahead and explain that all a little bit, but this is the first video of the week, and it's a ranking video. We're going to be doing these kind of videos all week long. It is Thanksgiving week at the time of recording this, and at the time of this video, Thanksgiving week, and I thought, what am I thankful for? Video games. It's my biggest passion. It's like what I'm pursuing in terms of a career. It's the thing I share the most, the thing I do the most, my biggest hobby. It's everything to me. And I thought, since we kind of started the rebrand, since we restarted the channel, let's do a bunch of rankings that would help you guys understand me more as a gamer, as a person who loves video games, and understand my opinions and kind of where I'm at in terms of video games and my perspectives on everything. So we're going to do a bunch of rankings. Let me go ahead and pull up the list of all the different types of rankings that we're going to be doing. But we're going to be doing a lot, starting off with genres, because genres is really the whole, what determines what a game is pretty much a genre for the most part. So yeah, we're going to do genre rankings. We're going to do game value / categories. So, in terms of importance, is it gameplay, story, visuals, and then we're going to dissect those visuals. Is the art style more important? Is the realism? Is graphics? Is special effects? Is lighting? What's all important? So we're going to rank all that stuff. We're going to do company, my top 5 companies / publishers, my top 10 studios. We're going to do my top 10 stories, so my top 10 favorite campaign stories, main quest lines of all time. My top 10 OSTs, my top 10 gameplay, so games that have my favorite gameplay. My top 20 characters, probably. Probably going to do top 10, top 20 cover arts. I know it's a weird one. I'm a huge fan of cover art. Cover art is like one of the most... It's just like a weird thing that I have that not a lot of other people have. But if you are like that, let me know in the comments. I'd love to shout you out. And then we're going to end it with my top 20 games of all time. We haven't done that. I haven't done that in like 2 years. And so my list might be a little different. So I definitely want to go ahead and do that. But yeah, Thanksgiving week, we're just going to look at a bunch of video games, do a bunch of different rankings on the things that I love, video games. Starting off, like I said, we're doing genres, and yeah, I'm super excited to get into this. I have 25 genres, so I went ahead and tried and simplified everything. There's a lot of overlapping when it comes to genres. There's a lot of genres that can be considered one thing or another. Some things are classified as it but don't feel like it. Some things feel like it but are classified. It really is all over the place with genres most of the time. So I tried simplifying it to the best way possible. I may have to do some explanations, but I'm going to try and keep this video on this, not super long. A lot of these rankings usually end up going longer, so I'm going to try and speed through a lot of these while also getting the point across most of the time. So we're going to go ahead and get started with number 25 in last place. Now let me just say, a genre that really shouldn't have anything to do with it. I think no matter what, if it's a good game, it's a good game, regardless of the genre that it is. If you can make a quality game, you can make a quality game regardless of the genre. And truly, I love every genre. Like, I play every genre. There isn't a genre I do not play. And so ranking these is really hard for me because I like them all. It just depends on if it's a good game or not. So I basically went off a criteria of what are some of my favorite games. Recency does have a big play in this. Experience, the quantity, as well as the quality. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and kick things off with number 25, and that is MMO, Massive Multiplayer Online Games. So the big thing here is I have yet to really be attached to an MMO. My personal favorite that I can think of off the top of my head isn't even a full game. It's like a mode in a game, and that is Dragon's Dogma MMO. I think that the idea of MMO is really cool. A huge world full of tons of players. You can all make your own characters, do all this thing. I just don't think a lot of the time it's executed well. I had some fun with ESO, but it didn't stick with me, and that's really the big problem I have with MMOs. They don't really stick with me, and we don't get enough of them to make it a genre that I really care about. But I think it's a really cool idea, and I wish we got some better ones personally. But yeah, that's just me with MMO. Moving on to number 24, we're going to go with MOBAs. So this is also the same exact category with MMOs. I think it's a really fun genre. I think there are some good games. My personal favorite, another weird one, being Pokemon Unite. I think that's a really, really fun game. And I love the whole, characters, classes, teamwork. I love all that. It's super fun, but again, there's not many of them that I really, really get attached to and that I can really say I really, really love. I think they're just really cool, and I enjoy listening about them, hearing about them, watching them. I'm not that big of a competitive person. Competitiveness is not really something I'm into all that much. It has to be a very, very specific game for me to be super competitive with it, and MOBAs are kind of that very competitive genre, so it's really hard to get into some things. Like, I would love to hop into League of Legends because I think all the characters and all that is awesome, the music, everything, but I just know it's going to take such a learning curve that I'm not sure exactly want to take because I'm not going to be all that competitive with it. But yeah, that's why MOBAs are at number 24. Number 23, I have, unfortunately, I wish this was higher. I just can't due to the quantity. And that is music/rhythm games. So, recency, Hi-Fi Rush is freaking phenomenal. It is one of the best games of the year, in my opinion. It is one of the best Xbox games released in a long, long time. And I absolutely love it. It reminded me why I love music/rhythm games. The problem is, outside of that, we haven't gotten any other music/rhythm game that stands out to me in 2023, or really of the past few years. There was Metal Hellsinger, which was fun, but it wasn't on the level of Hi-Fi Rush for me. And we really don't get many other ones regardless. Guitar Hero and Rock Band are no longer things, and it's just really, it's really just not that big a genre anymore. It's just nobody really commits to it, and which is really sad because it is a really, really fun genre. When you have a really good music/rhythm game, man, is it so fun. And I love music. I produce music, and so having music/rhythm games that are just so fun to play is really, really special. But we just don't have enough of them. We need more. Coming in at number 22, we have puzzle games. Now, let me be clear. Puzzles in games, I love, okay? If we are talking Legend of Zelda, Uncharted, like even God of War, even little puzzles like in Starfield, how you have to crack the little code with the weird circles and all that. That's a puzzle. Alan Wake 2 has some of those little puzzles. I personally love when puzzles are implemented in games. The reason puzzle is at 22 is those kind of games like Tears of the Kingdom, like God of War, like Uncharted, like Starfield, they are not classified as puzzle games. Those are not puzzle game genres. They are action-adventure games, RPGs that implement puzzles into its exploration, into its quest. They are not puzzle games. They have puzzles. I'm talking games like Portal, like Talos of the Principle that just released. Games like those that are pure puzzles from start to finish, every second, every hour, every chapter. Those are super fun. They are some of the most creative games out there. Portal is the perfect example. Super creative, super fun. We don't get the huge ones. Like Cocoon also released this year. While I think that game is really, really special, it's really, really cool, that's really it's so hit or miss, and sometimes you don't even know about them. Sometimes you do know about them, but they're not that great. It's such an interesting category because I don't feel they get enough attention because it is kind of a niche genre. But when you have a really, really good puzzle game, they are some of the most creative, engaging. Just after you beat it or when you're playing it, it's just such an emotion of oh, that's awesome, or oh, that's cool. Okay, I see. You don't get that expressions or emotion out of any other genre. So I really do love puzzle games, but I love it more when puzzles are implemented in games other than just puzzles all the way through. But that's just me. Let me know what you guys think down on puzzles in the comments. Coming in at 21st, 21. Don't know why I said 21st. Coming in at 21, we have simulation games. So I combined two genres here. I'm calling it simulation / tycoon games. Also, I might also throw in like sandbox in there, except that's not really, it really depends. Because like games like Planet Coaster is a tycoon. It's a theme park simulator, but it can be a sandbox, right? Games like those is what I'm considering. So simulation, I mean, I would consider, you know, it's not really simulator, but Goat Simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Cooking Simulator, House Flipper, games like those. And then you got Tycoons. I really only play Park Builders, Planet Coaster, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, Park Beyond, all that stuff. I love Tycoons. Theme Park Builders are some of my favorite. Jurassic World Evolutions, love it. I love those games. And simulators I also have a lot of fun with. But I don't stay very consistent with those games. I only play this genre when I'm in the mood, when I have this itch for it, you know. It's not something I could be like, oh, this new simulator came out, yes, that looks great. I'll play it when I feel like it, and that's really it. It's not a genre where you just are constantly going, wow, that's awesome. It's kind of just your pastime genre, and I love that, and I think that's all it has to be. And it's so unfortunate because I think a lot of them are really, really great, and I have a lot of fun with them. Planet Coaster is one of my most played games, one of my favorite games of all time. But am I playing it on a consistent basis, and would I put it above so many of these other genres just because of that game? No, I wouldn't. And so that's why it's coming in at number 21. Number 21. All right, we're starting our top 20 here. Starting off, now this is a little interesting. I went ahead and split these genres up because I think there is a huge gap between these genres. So when I say it, I'm gonna have to do a little explanation. Coming in at 20th is horror games. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Dislike. That's what you're thinking. You're thinking dislike the video. I will go ahead and clarify. There is another genre on this list classified as survival horror, okay? I think games like Resident Evil, Dead Space, Alan Wake 2 are completely different from games like Slenderman, like Five Nights at Freddy's, like those Steam games where you just hop on and it just tries to be crazy and jump scare you. I personally think there is a huge gap, number one, in quality, and number two, in the format and design of a game. I would never consider survival horror on the same level as something like Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, Five Nights at Freddy's is great, and which is why it's in 20th place. There are a lot of great horror games. The problem is, they're not the best genre, in my opinion. I think a lot of horror games are hit or miss, or are very underdeveloped, undercooked, and it's not really a genre that gets too much attention anymore. I know what you're saying. What do you mean horror doesn't get enough attention? Survival horror gets a lot of attention, okay? I mean, just this year alone, we had Dead Space Remake, Resident Evil 4 Remake, remakes of 2 of the top 3 survival horror games of all time. We got Alan Wake 2, which was a freaking masterpiece. One of the best, probably the best game I've ever played, low-key. And so, I went ahead and split it because, spoiler alert, survival horror is really high on my list. But when I think of like Five Nights at Freddy's, like Slenderman, I just can't imagine them being that high on my list. So I had to split it. So there's that. Coming in 19th place, we have beat 'em ups. I would really love to put this genre higher. I really would. Because beat 'em ups are just straight fun. They honestly almost never miss. Now, there are games, beat 'em ups, that aren't great. But majority of the time, nowadays especially, if a beat 'em up comes out, it's great. It's great. TMNT Shredder's Revenge is just awesome. It's just absolutely awesome. A game like Streets of Rage 4 is awesome. Battletoads 2020 was awesome. Beat 'em ups are so fun. Like, you cannot not have fun with that game. Like, it's just so fun. The problem is, again, quantity. Quantity is the big problem here. I really wish we got more beat 'em ups on a yearly basis. Like, I don't think we got any beat 'em up this year, and that's so sad because it's just so fun. It's so hard to mess it up. It really is, because it's just constant chaos, constant energy, constant action, and it's awesome. Moving on to number 18, we got stealth. Now, this is the same thing as puzzle games. When stealth is implemented in games like Assassin's Creed, like Uncharted, it is phenomenal. I love it. Some of my favorite sections of the game. But when it's purely a stealth game, it can get quite boring at times. And that's the only reason it's this low. I think stealth games, again, are very creative, have some of the best level design out of any genre for sure. But again, I just prefer when stealth is implemented into other games. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm really going to say about it. There's really not much to say about stealth. It is a really fun genre and a really fun sections of games. But it's hard to compare it against a lot of other genres for sure. Splinter Cell and Hitman are like a top of that genre for sure. Splinter Cell being the king of it. Moving on to number 17. A lot of people are going to disagree with me, and I completely understand with that. I completely can back behind why you're mad at me behind it, because it should be higher. It should be. But coming in at number 17th, we have party games. Yes, party games. So we're talking Mario Party. We're talking, I mean, I guess you could say like Mario Kart. I'm talking games like Gang Beast, like Jackbox games, like Golf with Friends, Party Animal, all that stuff. I consider that party games. And here's the thing. These are some of the most fun games you can possibly have. Easily. Some of the most fun games you can have with friends, with family, and that's really what video games are about. Now, here's the thing. I personally prefer playing solo when it almost comes to almost any genre. Not party games, but I prefer playing solo. That's just my style of playing. And here's the thing. When I do play party games, the fun is unmatched. That is not a doubt. That is not a question. Easily, the fun and joy I have is unmatched. The problem is, I play it for an hour, maybe 2 hours, and I'm done with it. That's really it. I only play them when I'm around people. And honestly, nowadays, we don't get too many of them. I really wish we were back to like the Wii days or Xbox 360 days where there were just so many party games. And that's really just not the case anymore. And when there is one, it's either hit or miss, or it's really good, but you only play it for like 2 hours and you almost never touch it again. So yeah, that's really my whole thing of party. It's not this low because it's bad in any way. It's just this low because I prefer all the other ones. That's really all it is to it. Moving on to number 16, we have VR games. So this one's a little tricky for me because this year I honestly didn't play VR almost at all, to be honest with you. And while you could say quantity is really, really bad, and I kind of agree with that, I think VR has so much potential to be such an amazing genre. The problem is we don't get enough studios, developers, publishers to commit to VR. When we get games like Horizon Call of the Mountain, Resident Evil 4 VR, when we get games like Asgard's Wrath, Vader Immortal, Beat Saber, all those games that are really just standout VR titles, it is some of the best, it's just some of the best experiences you can have. I personally love VR. I think it's really fun. I've spent so many hours in Vader Immortal, probably one of my most played games of all time, Vader Immortal. I know you're probably like, what? Yeah, I probably have the world record for the most hours in Vader Immortal. I probably have over like 500 hours in the game. I'm not even joking, guys. I know. You're probably like, what? How do you even do that? I was literally just in training dojo for like 500 hours, becoming the greatest Jedi Master, Sith Lord, whatever you want to call me. I absolutely love it. But the quantity is just not there. And I really, really hope we can get more committed to VR because it really does have so much potential. Kicking off our top 15 genres, we have racing. So let me get this clear. If we are talking Gran Turismo, Forza Motorsport, real life simulation racing games, I think they are okay. They are okay. I can maybe have fun with them for a day or two. Where racing really kicks up is when you get games like Forza Horizon, Mario Kart, Wreckfest, when you get games like Twisted Metal, if you even consider that a racing game, when you get games that aren't even just cars. We can have like Super Monkey Ball. that has races in it. Racing as a game mode, as a objective, as a... what's the word I'm looking? I don't know the word I'm looking. Racing doesn't have to be cars start finish line. Racing could be like beat this time trial, or get here before the time runs out, or just beat other people. Speed running. That's not technically racing, but racing can be so many other things that don't just involve cars. And I think racing as a format is really, really fun. Dirt 5 is really, really fun as well. Need for Speed is probably one of my favorite franchises there. And so I think racing is just really, really solid. That's why I think it has to be in my top 15, because number one, I think there's great quantity, and number two, I think there's great quality as well. So I think it's just a really great one. The only reason it's not higher is I just prefer all the other genres. That's really all it is. Coming in number 14, we have pretty much the same exact boat, sports games. Sports games, when we're talking realistic simulation games like 2K, like NHL, FIFA, all that stuff, it's just okay. I don't really care. Madden is the only one I play. Madden and the WWE games, maybe occasionally UFC. I like those games, but that's just because I watch football and I like WWE, and I'm a boxer, so UFC is the closest thing we got. Please make a boxing game, please. And so, sports games where they really kick off is when you get all those Mario spin-offs, okay? When you get all those fun, like, crazy sports games, that's when it really, really kicks off, and why I really have a lot of fun. Honestly, going back to racing, like Sonic Riders is awesome. It's not cars, but it is a racing game, and it's absolutely fantastic. But it's like sports games like that. Mario Baseball is one of my favorite games of all time because it's just so fun. It doesn't have to be a realistic sports game, but it's just so fun for sure. Moving on to number 13, we have survival games. So I really wish we got more of these on a yearly basis, but I just love, again, the format of survival. It doesn't necessarily have to like be the main, like, oh yeah, this is 100% a survival game. But games like Minecraft, it's creative, there's like spin-offs, but in its core, it's a survival game. Things like Ark Survival Evolved. Ark Survival Evolved is, again, one of my favorite games of all time. I just absolutely love it. The amount of hours you're able to spend in survival games, the amount of variety a lot of survival games have is just really, really great. I really wish we got more of them on a yearly basis, because most of the time the quality's there. Subnautica is another great one. I hear we're getting Subnautica 2 or something like that in 2025. Let's go. I'm ready for that. So yeah, I really, really do like survival games a lot. Coming in at number 12, we have Souls-like. Okay. So, if I was ranking these genres purely based off of quality, I think Souls-like would be in the top 3 easy. Okay? And also, nowadays, the quantity is also up there, for sure. The only reason it is below top 10 for me is the fact that this is my opinion, and I prefer other genres. Now, before you guys start getting mad at me, oh, you're just not good at them, you just haven't played them, oh, you don't like challenging things. I have beaten Demon Souls, I have beaten Sekiro, I have not beaten Elden Ring, but I got really, really far. I've played Dark Souls 1. I've played Dark Souls 2 and 3. I've played I beat Bloodborne, actually. Yeah, I beat Bloodborne as well. I've played games that aren't from Software, like Lies of P, like Wolong Fallen Dynasty, Nioh 1 and 2. It has nothing to do with me not playing it, or me not being good at it, or me like being mad that it's too hard. Personally, for me, when I think of what's a game that I truly get excited for when it's announced, Souls-like, I think when a new Souls-like is announced, I know it's going to be great. I just know it's going to be great. But I don't get super hyped for it because I know the commitment it takes. And for me, it's so much easier hopping into so many other genres than it is for a Souls-like because of that commitment, that dedication that you have to give to it. It's not the easiest. It's not a casual game whatsoever. And that, for me, is why it's lower. I think the quality is fantastic. I think the quantity is there. I think the creativity and the variety is there. I just love all the other genres so much more. And that's really all it is. And in terms of difficulty, I prefer another genre that's very difficult, that still has that difficulty. And we're going to get that later. Moving on to number 11, we have strategy games. Okay, a lot of these genres are carried by very specific games. I'm not gonna lie. This is my list. I'm gonna be biased. That's how it's gonna be. Okay? Strategy, while I can't say I've played a whole lot of strategies, and I do not really like games like Age of Empires, Civ 6, like Civilization, those kind of games. I'm not really the biggest fan of those. But turn-based games and real-time strategy game, not real-time strategy, no. Like, what would you call, like, Xenoblade Chronicles 3? That's a strategy game, alright? The combat in that game is strategy. But, you know, it's not like Age of Empires. It's different. It's like an action strategy. So a tactical RPG, whatever. There's a lot of different strategies in there, and some of my favorites, one of my favorite games of all time, it's probably in my top 5. I know you guys are gonna laugh. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope is one of my favorite games of all time because of purely how fun its combat is, and that has to do with the strategy gameplay. Pokemon is one of my favorite franchises of all time. Those are strategy. Turn-based, almost anything turn-based is strategy. Yakuza Like a Dragon. We have things like Persona. We have things like the old Final Fantasies. Those are all strategy. Strategy slaps. There are so many good strategies. The problem is there are so many strategies I do not like. And that's the only reason it is not in my top 10. There are so many I do not like. But there are so many I love as well. But the problem is, in the top 10, everything has a ton that I love. So, we're going to go ahead and get to the top 10. Starting it off, top 10, number 10. The game that I was just talking about has the difficulty that I much prefer, and that is roguelike games. My second favorite game of all time is Returnal. I just absolutely love Returnal. That is a roguelike. It has the difficulty, it has the creativity, it has the quality, and it is so fun. It is addicting. It is everything I want out of a game, and there are other great roguelikes. Hades is one of the best games out there. Sifu is just a absolutely fantastic idea, and the execution was great on it. Dead Cells is really fun. That's also a Metroidvania, I'm pretty sure. I'm not exactly sure about that, but it's just so great. Roguelikes, we need more of them. That's the only problem. That's the only reason it's not higher, is there's not enough of them, in my opinion. We need a lot more. The amount of Souls-like games we get, we should have just as many as roguelikes. I'm sorry, we should. But yeah, that's really my take on roguelikes. Coming in at number 9, we have 2D platformers. This is a slept-on genre. Okay, let me just run through a list real quick. We got Mario. Goated. Prince of Persia, there's a new game coming out. I think it looks spectacular. Disney Illusion Island, a game that came out this year. Really fun. Really great. You got Donkey Kong. You got Rayman. You got Sonic. And then, even if you want, you can include Metroidvanias, like Metroid, like Last Case of Benedict Fox, like Castlevania, like Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Those have, like Hollow Knight, those have 2D platforming. Now, I do have Metroidvania as a separate genre on here, because I do much prefer when a 2D game is a Metroidvania. I much prefer when a game is a Metroidvania, so I had to split that up. And it really does have a different vibe to it. But in the end of the day, Metroid is a 2D platformer Metroidvania. So 2D platforming is still a big part of a lot of games, and I absolutely love it. I mean, I get it. It's not as immersive. It's not big a spectacle as things like action adventure, action RPG, survival horror games, even 3D platformers. But they're still fun, and you cannot sleep on that. They have so much quality in them, and a lot of times they are super duper creative, have great level designs. You just cannot sleep on them. And there's too many of them to sleep on them, because even this year we've gotten some great ones. Mario Wonder at the top of that list. Is just really, really special genre for sure. Coming in at 8th place, this is a tough one. Definitely gonna have to explain this one, because this genre, along with one other one, I was having such a hard time figuring out how to even like put these on here, because it was really hard defining them and really coming to a conclusion on what the genre really meant and what games were included in the genre. Coming in at 8th place, we have JRPGs. Now, I know you're thinking, what do you mean JRPGs are not in your top 5? Let me go ahead and say, Pokemon is one of my favorite franchises of all time. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Not Rebirth. Final Fantasy VII. I don't know why I said Rebirth. I'm excited for it, for sure. Final Fantasy VII is one of my favorite games of all time. My favorite JRPG of all time. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I think, is one of the best Switch games to date. The Octopath Travelers are fantastic. I think the Yakuza games are one of the best series in gaming. It is so hard to make a series that long-lasting with that many entries that are all fantastic. Outside of that, you got like Dragon Quest. You got like all those Square Enix like 2D HD remasters. Those are technically JRPGs. But outside of that, I think there are a lot of just okay JRPGs. When you get a great JRPG like Final Fantasy VII, like Xenoblade, like Octopath Traveler, like Yakuza's, like sometimes Pokemon, they are some of the best games out there. No doubt about it. The problem is, when you really look at quantity, I think there are a lot more better games in other genres than there are in JRPG. Now, I know what you're thinking. What about Final Fantasy 16? What about other games? Let me classify it like Nier Automata, something like that. While those are made by Japanese publishers, Japanese studios, just because they're made in Japan, in my opinion, this is the way I'm defining the genre, that does not automatically make them a JRPG. To me, the JRPG genre is a format. It's a system of gameplay. It is a design aspect of a game. Final Fantasy 16 is not that. Nier Automata is not that, in my opinion. That's personally how I see it. Now, you could classify them as JARPGs, Japanese action RPGs, and that I can definitely get behind, but I am talking about straight JRPGs, and I just think there are more in other genres. That's really it. Like I said, when you look at the franchises, FF7, Pokemon, Xenoblade, Yakuza, Dragon Quest, that's really all the big ones. There are a ton of smaller ones, and I love that. But when you just look at other genres, the quantity doesn't really compete, in my opinion. But that's just me. That's just me. I know I'm probably going to get flamed, and that's okay. I would actually really love to hear more recommendations or suggestions of JRPGs, because they are some of the highest quality games. They are some of the highest quality. Out of all these genres, Souls-like and JRPGs are probably in the top 3 for quality, easily. Moving on to number 7, we have shooters. Now, when I originally thought about this, I was thinking, oh, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Fortnite, Valorant, stuff like that. But it didn't dawn upon me that we're talking about games like Doom. We're talking about games like Halo. Titanfall 2 is even in there. Far Cry is in there. Returnal, which I just said is my second favorite game of all time, is technically a shooter. Shooter's huge. Shooter is actually huge, and there are so many of them out there. And a lot of them are really, really fun and really, really good. That's the reason why it's this high. When I think of multiplayer shooter games, okay, it might be lower on my list. But when I think of just all the shooters encompassing the entire gaming industry, shooters honestly are very dominant. I'm not gonna lie. In a lot of ways, commercially and critically, a very, very dominant genre for sure. Moving on to number 6. Oh man, dude, this is one of my favorite genres, easily. I mean, obviously, it's number 6. Metroidvanias. I was just saying, I love 2D platforming. Oh my gosh, I broke my mic. We're good. I love 2D platforming. But when it's a Metroidvania, it just hits different. It hits different. Metroid is my favorite Nintendo franchise of all time. Metroid Dread being in my top 20 of all time. Probably even top 10. I don't know what I'm talking about. It is in my top 10 of all time. Ori of the Will of the Wisp is one of my favorite Xbox games of all time. We got games like Hollow Knight, one of the best indies of all time. Last Case of Manic Fox, haven't played it, but it looks really, really cool. Then you even got games like Metroid Prime, which aren't 2D, that I just think are absolutely fantastic. Metroidvanias are so special. Some of the best level design, game design out there. Some of the most creative, engaging, grind-heavy, addicting games out there. I just absolutely love Metroidvania. We got games coming out like Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I'm pretty sure he's a Metroidvania. Super hyped. When a Metroidvania game is announced or shown off, I just get hyped by default. I absolutely love Metroidvanias for sure. Castlevania is even in there. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Coming in at number 5, I almost said it. Coming in at number 5, fighting games. So in my opinion, okay, when I think of quality, when I think of some of my favorite games of all time, okay, maybe fighting games don't reach in that conversation too much. But when I think of quantity, and when I think of what this genre brings to the table, what it means for gaming, what it means for me, it just has to be top 5. It has to be top 5. In my opinion, this is a part of the holy trinity of genres. The landscape of gaming would not be the same without fighting games. You name me another genre that has as big of communities, okay, as powerful of communities, as defining as like the emotions that they bring. When a new game is announced for a fighting game, there is no other genre that can give you that excitement for, oh, let's see the roster. Let's see all these different characters. Let's make all these awesome YouTube videos of reacting to all the fatalities, all the super moves. Let's see what DLC characters we get, crossovers we get. Can't wait to see all the different stages. Can't wait to play the story. Can't wait to see the online. Can't wait to see the multiplayer. This is a genre that, while yes, it may not be for everybody, and it may not be some of the greatest quality out there, it is so unique, so on its own, and so defining that it just, in my opinion, it has to be in top 5. And yes, I personally do love fighting games. I have played fighting games for my entire life. I'm not super competitive with them. I like playing them for the casual, for the fun aspect, which is why NetherRealm games are typically my favorite. But we got games like Mortal Kombat, Injustice, but we got games like Street Fighter, I love. We got games like Smash Bros, I love. Tekken, I love. King of Fighters, I love. Virtua Fighter, I love. Soul Calibur games, I love. Got games like Nickelodeon Brawl All-Stars, Multiverses, I absolutely love. You got games like the Power Rangers game a while back, I just absolutely love. Fighting games are so special, and it just has to be in my top 5. It just has to, because I spend so many hours in them. I get so anticipated for them, and they just stick in your head like glue, and I just absolutely love them. Coming in 4th place, we've reached our top 4, ladies and gentlemen. 3D platformers. This is along the same category as fighting game. It just means too much not to be in the top 5. It has some of the best characters in all of gaming. I mean, if you just think of all the different platforming icons, it is hard to compete. It really is. When you think of quality in terms of level design and visual artistic abilities, technical achievements, when you think of villains, when you think of music, when you just think of the different franchises, it is so hard to compete with 3D platformers, and they are so fun. They are so fun. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is my favorite 3D platformer, but you got games like Mario, the GOAT. You got games like Crash Bandicoot, Psychonauts, Spyro, Astro's Playroom, and so much more. 3D platformers are just absolutely phenomenal, fantastic. I cannot not put them in my top 5 for sure. Coming in at number 3, this is very recent bias, okay? Definitely out of recency, but really, if you just look at the quality, it's insane what it's been able to achieve. Coming in number 3, I talked about it earlier, survival horror games. Alan Wake 2, I just beat that, honestly, close to about 2 weeks ago. It is now my 3rd favorite game of all time. And personally, I think it's the best game I've ever played. If I look at it from an artistical standpoint, video games as an art form, the quality and the direction and the execution of that game is something I've never seen in any game ever before. The technical achievements I have seen have been unmatched within that game. I think it's personally the best game I've ever played. It's not my favorite. It's my third favorite. But in terms of quality, I think it is the best game I've ever played. I'll be completely honest with you guys. Resident Evil is just, come on now. Dead Space is awesome. Dead Space remake was my game of the year before Alan Wake 2 happened. So boom, both my 2 top games of the year are both survival horror games. Silent Hill, the remake is coming, but Silent Hill already is incredible. Callisto Protocol, I thought was fun. It's nowhere near Dead Space, I'll be honest, but it is fun. I think it got too much hate. Alien Isolation, people forget that is a survival horror game. The Evil Within is a survival horror game. There are so many great survival horror games. We got quantity, we got quality, and it has some of the best artistical factors in all of gaming. I just absolutely love survival horror games, especially this year. They went crazy. Okay, moving on into our top 3. We got not top 3, sorry. Moving to our number 2 runner-up, ARPGs, otherwise known as action role-playing games. This is where I include games like Final Fantasy 16, like Nier Automata, but let me run through some more. Assassin's Creed games, Bethesda RPGs, Dragon's Dogma, Dying Light 2. Yes. In my opinion, RPGs are the video game genre. RPGs are the video game genres, whether you're including them separately or all of it. RPGs include action RPGs, JRPGs, tactical RPGs, all of that. RPGs are, in my opinion, the video game genre. And so, action RPGs, they just they're so close to being the best. If a lot of times in action RPGs, I don't feel like they have the best story. I think action RPGs most of the time have the best gameplay, sometimes have some of the best visuals, sometimes. They have some of the best music. They have some of the best of every quality of a video game. But the only reason it's not number 1 is because I think number 1 does it better, but with an amazing story every single time, almost every single time. A lot of action RPGs can be primarily focused not on story. So like Bayonetta 3, I feel like does have a story, but we all know that game is purely meant for just the awesome combat. And that brings me to my next thing is I combine action RPG because this is what it is to hack and slash games. Hack and slash is not really a genre. It's a format of gameplay. And that is, in essence, an action RPG. So I also include that. So we got Devil May Cry, we got Nier Automata. We have, I just said Bayonetta. And so action RPGs are just so fun. And there's so many games like Starfield. People don't compare that to Final Fantasy 16 because they really are different, but they are both an RPG with a lot of action in them. And that really goes to show you how great this genre is, because it can range from things like Starfield to Assassin's Creed, like Dying Light, like to Final Fantasy. There's such a wide variety, and it's all in the same genre because it's just that big and that good. But yeah, number one just takes it for me. It just takes it for me. I don't think it will ever change, to be honest with you. Unless Metroidvanias become like the greatest thing ever, which they already are. Number one in my personal favorite genre at the moment, as of 2023, is action adventure games. So when I look at the visuals, I look at something like Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, Immortals Phoenix Rising, A Plague Tale, Star Wars Jedi games, got any others? Horizon games, Zelda games, Uncharted games. Visually, they are all stunning. When I look at gameplay, I look at something like Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, Immortals Phoenix Rising, A Plague Tale, Star Wars Jedi, Horizons, Zeldas, Uncharted, and they are so fun. When I look at music, I look at things like Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, Immortals Phoenix Rising, A Plague Tale, Star Wars Jedi, Horizon games, Zelda games, Uncharted games, and they are all phenomenal. When I look at what the game offers in terms of features, length, content, I look at Ghost of Tsushima, God of War Ragnarok, Immortals Phoenix Rising, A Plague Tale, Star Wars Jedi, Zelda, Uncharted, Horizon, and they just absolutely deliver. And last but definitely not least, when I look at story, when I look at the world, when I look at the immersion, when I look at the quality, when I look at everything it brings in terms of every factor that a video game should have, characters are huge. Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, Immortals Phoenix Rising, A Plague Tale, Star Wars Jedi, Zelda, Uncharted, Horizons, just to name a few, are, in my opinion, the best genre we have today. You could consider a lot more action adventure games. You can consider survival horror games, action adventure games. You can consider some action RPGs, action adventure games. You can consider so many things action adventure games because it just encompasses everything a video game should have. It encompasses every factor a video game should have, and it does it to the highest extent. No matter what franchise, no matter what IPs, it just works. And it's just, most of the time, so awesome. And a lot of the time, it's third person. And personally, I like third person more than anything out there. I mean, more than first person, at least. Just because I get to see the character, and I get to really feel like I'm playing as them. And so, that is what I'm going with. Action adventure games are just truly peak in my opinion. But that's gonna do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, definitely leave a like, leave a comment in the section down below provided. Please subscribe. What are your guys' top 5 genres, top 10 genres? If you want to rank all the ones I did, go right ahead. I'd love to hear it. But I will be back tomorrow with another ranking. I might have 2 rankings tomorrow just because we're like that. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. G.A.M.E.R out. Peace.